Peace, y'all. It's your man, Jason Rome. Hope everybody's having a good day today so far. A lot of us who are parents, and just even if we're not, we observe that younger people are very combative, and even teenagers and college students out here protesting a lot. People, I hear people complain about they pay for their kids to go to college and they come back and have ideals that are so different from theirs, and they wonder why. But then if you look at the political climate and even what adults are doing, it's like, well, what do you expect? But I have a story and a rabbit hole I fell into that might help explain it, especially when you consider the war that's going on right now. There's multiple, right? Israel, Ukraine, Congo. There's wars going on all over the place, but specifically the one that's going on in the Middle East, right? This is not a conspiracy theory. I'm going to um, I'm going to include links if YouTube will allow me to, but I'm going to include screenshots, and you can look up all this information for yourself because literacy matters. Reading is gangster. Reading is fundamental, right? The more you know. I'm going to be as concise as possible, but this might go on longer than I expect. But I tried to outline everything. Well, I did my best. I did outline everything. We'll see how this goes, right? So please bear with me. Hear me out. Hear me out, right? So when I was a kid, I was raised religious. We learned this story about Dinah and Shechem, right? So Dinah was one of Jacob's daughter. Well, he was Jacob's only daughter. He had a bunch of sons. Jacob is Israel, right? You see where this is going, right? So the story of Dinah and Shechem is found in the book of Genesis in the Bible. It's the first book of the Bible. So she was the daughter of Jacob and Leah. One day she went out to visit the women of the land. While she was out, Shechem, the son of Hamor, the ruler of the area, saw her and took her by force, assaulting her. And despite the violent act, his heart was drawn to her. He fell in love with her and even spoke tenderly to her, right? So what happened was, because I don't need to read this, what happened was Shechem, when he approached them and he was like, look, I love her, I want to marry her. Her brothers were so mad, because I was thinking about something, right? So her brothers were so mad that they wanted to get him out of here. But they were like, look, what we're gonna do is we're gonna act like we're cool with him. So because they were Israelites, obviously their father's name was Israel. So they said he needs to get circumcised. And what we'll do is we'll act like we're cool with them. We'll tell them, we'll make a deal. If y'all get circumcised, we'll say that we can form an alliance and y'all can marry, we can intermarry if y'all get circumcised. So Shechem went, because his father was the ruler, so he said, yeah, we can do that. And so once they got circumcised, they were sore, and then they Jacob's sons, Dinah's brothers, they went in and slaughtered everybody, all they got him out of here, right? That's what happened. Fast forward, right? So that's the story. Dinah, Shechem, Israel, his sons. Okay? That's what happened with that. So I had an epiphany. I was thinking, and I Googled it, where is the city of modern day Shechem? Well, Google says Shechem is located about 30 miles, 48 kilometers north of Jerusalem and about 30 miles, 48 kilometers northeast of Tel Aviv in West Bank. What's going on in West Bank? West Bank is the most highly populated Islamic nation in the world. It's the most populated nation in the world. Interesting, right? Now, going deeper into the rabbit hole, According to the Associated Press, and the article was updated by Edith M. Lederer on at 11:10 p.m. My birthday happens to be 11:11, but anyway, this is not about me. On March 4th, 2024, so a couple months ago, the UN envoy focusing on sexual violence and conflict said in a new report Monday that there are reasonable grounds to believe Hamas committed rape, sexualized torture, and other cruel and inhumane treatment of women during its surprise attack in southern Israel on October 7th. There are also reasonable grounds to believe that such violence may be ongoing, said Pramila Patton, who visited Israel and the West Bank from January 29th to February 14th, Valentine's Day. Interesting. And there's all this ongoing conflict and gender war between men and women. The bear versus man. Interesting. These podcasts, very interesting. Incels, feminism, very interesting, don't you think? But wait, there's more. According to Wikipedia, which people used to discount Wikipedia as being propaganda, you could look up Operation Mockingbird and what the CIA did back in the 60s as far as using mainstream media for propaganda, but that's a whole different rabbit hole. WikiLeaks, we know what happened. And if you don't, you can look that up too. That's a whole different rabbit hole. On an article entitled Actual Gender and Gender-Based Violence in the 2023 Hamas-led attack on Israel, where it says a request that this article title be changed to Alleged Actual and Gender-Based Violence in the 2023 Hamas-led attack on Israel is under discussion. Hamas has denied that its fighters committed rape. They're gonna flag me. They'll probably flag it regardless. But my channel ain't that big at all. Has denied that its fighters committed rape and assault against women during the October 7th attacks by Hamas on Israeli communities. Israeli women and girls were reportedly raped, assaulted, and mutilated by Hamas militants, an allegation that Hamas denies. Israeli police said dozens of women and some men were raped. We didn't hear about the men, though. Well, I didn't. The New York Times and the BBC report that videos of naked and bloodied women filmed by Hamas on the day of the attack and photographs of bodies taken at the sites afterwards suggest that women were actually targeted by their attackers. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of crisis actors, but I mean, even movies look real. So, very interesting. But wait, there's more. The rabbit hole gets even deeper, y'all. It gets deeper. Now, there's an article from the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs. This is online, the NCJRS Virtual Library. This is from February 1990. I was a kid when this came out. Like, I was raised to do research because I was raised in a strict religion, which will remain nameless for now. But this is not in Palestine, but it says this is in Pakistan, which is a heavily Islamic country. Punishments for that same offense, rape, include stoning to death, amputation of limbs, whipping, imprisonment, and fines. A confession by the rapist or testimony from 4 Muslim adult male witnesses constitutes proof for the more severe punishments, but these standards are so strict that no rapist has yet been punished this severely. Less stringent standards of proof applied to the less severe punishments will also apply to fornication and adultery. Interesting, right? Interesting. But wait, there's even more. The rabbit hole gets even deeper. I think we all at this point know that Israel became a state or a country in 1948, right? If you look at an article, which, like I said, I'm going to do my best to provide a link, but why? If you go to the National Army Museum website, um, Chelsea, London, in 1917, an order is under the subheading Promises. In order to win Jewish support for Britain's First World War effort, the British Balfour Declaration, so you can look up the Balfour Declaration, promised the establishment of a Jewish national home in Ottoman-controlled Palestine, the Ottoman Empire. So before Israel was a state, it was Palestine. Remember, that's where the city of Shechem was located thousands of years ago. However, the British had also promised Arab nationalists that a united Arab country covering most of the Arab Middle East would result if the Ottoman Turks were defeated. When the fighting ended in 1918 with the Ottoman Empire defeated on every front, neither promise was delivered. There's subheadings here about mandate. In 1920, Britain assumed responsibility for Palestine under a League of Nations mandate. Remember, League of Nations, United Nations, that was before it was the United Nations. The British Army's operation in Palestine during this period were mainly directed against militant Arab groups who were opposed to this mass Jewish immigration. Maybe they saw what was coming. Violence reached a height with the Arab Revolt of 1936 to 1939. Jewish homeland, the Holocaust had a major impact on the situation in Palestine. During the Second World War, 1939 and 1945, the British restricted the entry into Palestine of European Jews escaping Nazi persecution. They had imposed a limit on Jewish immigration in the summer of 1939, anxious to end the disturbances in Palestine and to secure the support of the Egyptians and oil-rich Saudis ahead of the looming conflict in Europe. This policy provoked armed Jewish resistance and eventually united those who looked to Britain for help in establishing their national homeland, the Haganah, and those who wished to use terrorism to drive the British out. And it has a subheading about the T word, refugees, all of that. Interesting. But wait, there's more. So the last reference I'm going to give you is from the jewishvirtuallibrary.org. A lot of people, depending on what you read and what you watch, will reference Zionism when talking about this war. Have you ever heard of Christian Zionism? Christian Zionism, according to the jewishvirtuallibrary.org, can be defined as Christian support for the Zionist cause, the return of the Jewish people to its biblical homeland in Israel. It is a belief among some Christians that the return of Jews to Israel is in line with a biblical prophecy and is necessary for Jesus to return to earth as its king. These Christians are partly motivated by the writings of the Bible and the words of the prophets. However, they are also driven to support Israel because they wish to repay the debt of gratitude to the Jewish people for providing Christ and the other fundamentals of their faith, and to support a political ally, according to David Brogg, author Standing with Israel, Why Christians Support the Jewish State. Christian Zionists interpret both the Torah and the New Testament as prophetic texts that describe future events of how the world will one day end with the return of Jesus from heaven to rule on earth. Israel and its people are central to their vision. They interpret passages from the books of Ezekiel, Daniel, and Isaiah as foreshadowing the coming Christian era. The New Testament book of Revelation is read by many Christians as a prophetic text of how the world will be in the end times. So in conclusion, I know that might have been a lot if you're not familiar or haven't done research on this, but based on how I was raised and the religion I was raised in, these are all things I studied growing up, just not in this context. So whether you're religious, spiritual, political or not, all these things are going on in the world around us now. And maybe these are why younger people are just so political and are like, what is going on? We don't like the war. It's similar to Vietnam, but in a different context. Why there were hippies and college students, and there was feminism and political unrest and social unrest, and with the wokeness and the black and white and brown and all of that. History repeats itself if we don't learn from it. So please feel free to share your thoughts, share this video, or just think about it and think about how it affects you, those around you, if you have kids, or bottom line, we're all citizens of this planet. And there's people in power with influence, money. We're all affected by the economy because we live in a capitalistic society. And there are people that are profiting off of these conflicts. So I hope you made it to the end. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you learned something. Remember, reading is gangster.